the spirit of reconciliation, the Theatre Thoughts podcast acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all traditional custodians of the land on which our episodes are recorded.
This episode is sponsored by
Dreamland into the underworld.
Get your bikinis 50% off.
You're listening to the Theatre Thoughts podcast, where we dive deep into the world of theatre and celebrate the magic of the stage. I'm your host, Justin Clark, and I'm here to guide you through insightful conversations, behind-the-scenes stories, and thought-provoking discussions about everything theatre related. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to remind you to connect with us on social media. You can follow us on Instagram at TheatreThoughtsAUS and TTPod_official for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and exclusive interviews. You can also find us on TikTok at Theatre Thoughts Australia for even more theatre goodness. So whether you're a seasoned theatre goer or just starting your journey, please sit back, relax, and enjoy this brand new episode of the Theatre Thoughts podcast. Welcome everyone to a brand new episode of the Theatre Thoughts podcast. I have two amazing guests with me today to talk about the Australian premiere of Hadestown the musical, which is a very amazing episode to talk about because we've been talking about this for so long. It's finally here. So first up, we have an artist who made their professional debut in the Opera Australia World Tour of West Side Story in the role of Riff. They've written and performed their own cabaret show, which included a collection of songs and stories of their life as an expat child living in Paris and San Diego. Most recently, they returned to the role of Riff for the role of Riff for the reprisal of West Side Story, toured in the Australian production of Jagged Little Pill, and featured as Mark in the Australian tour of Rent. And so they're now taking on the role of Orpheus in the long-awaited Australian premiere of Hadestown. It's Noah Mullins.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. And then, of course, joining us as well is Australia's newest leading lady, having already taken on the monumental role of Kim in the Australian and Asian tours of Miss Saigon, for which she was awarded Best Newcomer at the Sydney Theatre Awards. She began her performance training at the age of 6 with her passion for singing, leading her to study both classical and contemporary music. Now she's taken on the much-loved role of Eurydice in Hadestown when it opens here in Australia. It's Abigail Adriano. Thank you so much for both of you joining us.
Thanks, Justin, for having us. I'm so happy to be here to chat today. This is so exciting.
This is our first Hadestown official interview, so we're hungry.
That's it. I got very excited when I heard that. I was like, yes, excellent. Now one for that. Well, I'd love if you both talked about yourselves first. I know I just did a little bio stuff, and obviously we'll talk about Hadestown in a lot of depth. But I'd love if you guys could first of all introduce who you are, a little bit more about your careers for the listeners, and just so we kind of can delve into that a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of like the newbie here, so take it away, Noah.
Well, I've been working in this industry for 7 years now, which sounds a bit silly because I'm only 25, but I did my first touring production with Opera Australia. I feel like Abby and I can both relate to this, but we were both birthed by Opera Australia into this industry, and now they've just kept it going for us, which is really lovely. And I've been working in the industry for 7 years now, in and out of different ensembles and cover roles, and it feels really exciting to be taking on the lead in Hadestown and to be sharing the stage with gorgeous Abby.
Aww.
It must be very, very special for both of you to be taking on such big roles as well. And I mean, like you said, birthed in Opera Australia, both taken on big roles already, taken on Riff and taken on Kim, which are both massive roles to take on. And also, Noah, correct me if I'm wrong, was West Side Story on the Sydney Harbour? Was that production?
No, that was Outside Story. I was in Inside Story. I was the one that was in the Opera House.
That's so good. But still in that, a massive...
But they were happening at the same time, and it was really cool because we had the Outside Story cast and the Inside Story cast kind of happening at the same time. And it was cool to kind of interact with them and see how different the shows were. I kind of thought it was cool to see two different lenses of West Side at the time, which is quite special.
I mean,
Yeah,
it was
I
pretty
can
cool as
remember
well.
when that
Like,
was happening. It was
Noah, you were doing that with my previous ex-lover,
the one and only
Nigel Huckle.
That's right. The
Right?
stars have,
And
the
now
stars
you're
have
my
aligned.
lover. Now you're my lover.
Well, Abigail, I'd love to know
Yeah.
more about you. Like you said, you were just talking about your role in Miss Saigon. And I was saying to Noah before you jumped on that I fell in love with Miss Saigon when I saw the anniversary production that they did in the UK. And I just thought it was just incredible. It blew me away, to be honest. And I was kicking myself. I never got to see you in the role of Kim. And I was devastated that I never did.
What?
But you absolutely smashed it. I know. I felt so bad.
Oh my gosh, that's okay. Honestly, Miss Saigon was just like the dream role for me. I think for a lot of Filipino girls growing up, it's so weird, right? It's like the most tragic musical that you could listen to on a Sunday morning, but that's the kind of music my parents would play in the morning, like as we're cleaning the house, they just love playing Lea Salonga or those big ballads in the background. So it was kind of just like in my blood in a way. So when it came to Australia, I was just at uni at the time, and I had decided to put like performing on the back pedal. And my grandparents really wanted me to focus on getting through my law degree, and I was a year into it when the auditions came. And then my singing teacher, who I was seeing fortnightly at this point, just for funsies, he was like, "Oh, Miss Saigon, like they're closing up their auditions, but you would be so great in it." And I went for it, and I just sent a tape, and I had no clue what Opera Australia would have done for me. But apparently, one of the producers, they were at like a Christmas party, and they saw my video, and they were like, "Oh, we finally found her." And I just thought, it changed my life, because from then on, like I know for a fact now that I always want to do theater. And it's incredible what the show's done for me. And it's so cool to be doing another production again with Opera Australia. I feel like when I started, I was a baby. And I think I'm still a baby, but I've learned so much. I've learned so much. I would say Miss Saigon was like, we call it Dreamland, because that's like one of the bars that we work at. But now I'm going to the underworld. So I'm making my journey from Dreamland to the underworld.
Excellent. Yes, you are. And they're two massive roles as well. Like Kim is such a big role in musical theatre, and now taking on the role of Eurydice. And the pair of you, like the Orpheus and Eurydice relationship and the depths of both of those characters is I struggle to put it into words, because it is just a beautiful story, and obviously relating back to the Greek mythology tale of them both as well, which we'll get into at some point, because there's obviously so much we can talk about. But I'd love to ask you both our theatre thoughts questions to kind of pick your brains about theatre before we jump into Hadestown, if you're up for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, these are kind of sort of off-the-cuff sort of answers, all about theatre.
Perfect.
Slay. Let's do it.
Well, the first question is, what has been your favourite production you've seen recently?
Okay, so don't fight me on this. I know this isn't a live production, but can we talk about Wicked?
Yes.
I watched that, and I watched it for a second time last night as well, so I feel really jigged up to talk about it. It's been, I would say, like, that's the most recent thing that I've watched, and I can't deny that it's just so good. I would say it's one of my favorite things that I've seen this year. One of my favorite parts about you've both seen it, right?
I've seen it twice.
Yeah, same.
Okay, I just love baby Nessa Rose.
Baby Nessa Rose! She killed me! She killed me!
Do you want to hear a story? Okay.
Oh, God, I love it.
So good.
Yeah, I really loved how they fleshed out the movie in such a way that, like, it enhanced what you feel when you're watching it inside a theater. Obviously, I would argue that, like, when I first watched it in a theater, it's got a different kind of magic, but, like, for what they did on the screen, it was so good.
Yeah.
Correct.
Definitely.
I feel like Wicked, the film, has changed the game. I think it feels like we witnessed a piece of history that's unfolding about how we view musical theatre from now on, and understand how
Yes.
nuanced musicals can be politically. And I don't think I've ever seen anything like that film, and it feels like a real next step in what the theatrical arts can achieve. And I hope that people learn from this movie how to cast things, and like how to like create lore and world building in a piece of theater. And then we'll just see the most amazing things sprout from this film. I think it's untouchable.
Yeah, definitely. I
Period.
think like because it did something very similar to what the actual stage musical did, where it just brought like a new wave of generation, I guess, of theater going people, and then it meant so much to so many people. And this could have just been a real simple. I was saying this to I spoke to Lauren Hunter and Kimberly Hodgson the other day for a podcast, and we were raving about Wicked as well.
Queens.
And I said to them, literally Queens. I said to them, it could have just been a real simple cookie cutter musical, you know, like copy and paste, Chuck James Corden in it because apparently he's in all the movie musicals, and you know, and it could have just been that movie. But John Chu like took it and really took it with gravitas and like really focused and made something incredible out of it.
Mm-hmm. And from now on,
I was moved to tears.
Yeah, me too. But from now on, that's the expectation. We can't regress from here. From now on, every movie musical, that's the expectation.
Yeah, definitely.
Correct.
And just the casting as well, like Cynthia and Ari together. Like I'm obsessed with Cynthia Erivo now. Like I knew of her obviously from The Color Purple. I'd never seen her much in movies, and like going back, I've been like, oh, she was in that movie, and then I'm obsessed with her. I'm just like, she's everything to me now.
Yeah, she's a god. Her performance in Harriet is like next level.
Well, jumping off that, Noah, what was your answer? Favorite production you've seen recently?
Yeah, look, I'm just gonna be honest. It was Miss Saigon.
Yeah,
like Miss Saigon, and I think, and Abby, I've spoken to you about this before, so this isn't a surprise. But Miss Saigon was next level. I think it similar to what Wicked did. I think it changed the game for Australian theatre. It told us like what real casting actually looks like, because I just don't think I had ever seen a production in Australia that had nailed it like that and allowed their cast to flourish in their characters rather than be like, here's a character, now fit the mold. Instead, it was like, here you are, now like bring the character into you. And it was spectacular. And I saw Friends and Family, like the first show they ever did, and it was already at that standard. And then I went and saw it again in Melbourne.
I'll cry.
And it just kept going. Like, I just think that show was untouchable, and the work that everybody put into that cast was next level. And I don't think I've been gagged as much with the Australian MT production as I was with Miss Saigon. That show was phenomenal.
I'll cry, Noah. I'll actually cry.
Got you.
I really wish I saw it more now. They're kicking me. The FOMO. Well, the second question that I'd love to know, it kind of leads on from the first, I suppose, is name a show that left you speechless.
Yeah, it was Saigon. It's like, sorry, I can't not stop talking about it. It's like, that show was ridiculous. Like, I still talk about it all the time. I just really haven't seen a show that was that spectacular. And I literally was gagged. I still can't.
Abigail, what about you? What would you say left you speechless?
I would say recently Noah and I both went to watch. This was like our first date together. If you guys want to know. We went to watch Well Behaved Women together, and I was left speechless by the performances of these beautiful four women, especially one of our co-stars, Eleanor, who's going to be playing Persephone.
Yes.
In Hadestown, Australia, and It's pretty much. Did you get to watch Well Behaved Women?
I did, and I loved it. I loved everything about it.
Yeah, just some of the numbers there, I was left speechless. I would say, what women did we? Noah, I remember looking at Noah with my jaw like on the floor.
We couldn't handle it. They were all too talented. Like, it was a little bit unfair. Like, they were so good, and the story, the songs, like, the performances were so rich and so nuanced, and it was just incredible.
I was really lucky to have Sarah Murr on as an understudy. So
Queen.
Oh,
got two of the Hadestown cast, and I was just like, because obviously I'd seen Sarah in so much, like saw her in & Juliet and a couple of other productions, and then seeing her like real close up in this, 4-person ensemble, so
intimate
intimate.
space.
I was like,
Yeah.
give her a leading role right now.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm so jealous that I didn't get to see her. The four like main
Same.
cast were absolutely phenomenal. But I was texting Sarah every day. I was like, "Girl, you better let me know when you're on." And we weren't able to make it happen. But I'm so jealous. She is everything.
Yeah, very much so. So that I totally agree. I think that's a great production to choose. Well, the next question is, what's the most rewarding theatre experience you've had? This can be like either as a performer or someone in the audience or in a show, anything along those lines.
Well, I have a couple. I'm finding this one hard to answer because they're kind of both the same. Did the same thing for me, but I worked on Jagged Little Pill and Rent recently, and it was so rewarding to be a part of shows that was so queer, because they don't come to Australia very often.
Period.
And which is pretty sad. And I felt so honored to be a part of two shows that really championed finding queer artists, and it was so diverse and so exciting to be in a room with everybody from different walks of life. And I think that my career has been forever shaped by the experiences that I had on both of those shows. But I think with Jagged Little Pill in particular, like I was just met with people who became like my family, my forever people. And Jagged Little Pill, I think all of us on that show, we still think about it in this way, but it was just like a real time and place, like the universe aligned kind of thing. And we created such a family, and I still think of them as my family. And I think for me, that was one of my most rewarding theater experiences.
That's beautiful. That's so beautiful.
Love. Abby?
Yeah, I would say Miss Saigon was definitely a rewarding theater experience. There were so many aspects about doing that musical that really it made me grow up. I think I definitely started I come from a huge Filipino family, extremely traditional family too. The stereotypical Catholic, innocent little girl. That's how I started. And my eyes started to really open as I did the tour for a year. And I learned a lot about myself and what it meant to be a woman, I would say. I think playing Kim every day. I remember our associate director, Jean-Pierre, he used to always tell me that to put my shoulders back and my chin up because Kim is dignified and she holds strength in her silence. And I've always felt, growing up, like to lower myself almost because I would say I struggled a lot with people pleasing and just, all those things that a immigrant young girl from Asia would feel. So it was really nice to through Kim learn about myself and go, no, it's okay to stand strong and to be powerful and to stand powerfully in my silence. And that was extremely rewarding because now those are some characteristics that I'll never let go of, and that's that I feel like the essence of Kim will always live in me, and I feel so much more fearless about life because of that show.
That's so beautiful. What a well-worded answer. That's great. It gave me chills, actually.
Thank you.
Well, the last question that I had for you both was, which production would you most want to see come to Australia? And before you answer this was for I want to say 80% of all the podcast episodes on which I asked this question, the answer was Hadestown. So now it's like very full circle. So now it's interesting to ask it now that it's obviously coming. But yes, which production would you most want to see come to Australia?
Oh.
Personally, I would like to see more mainstream commercial original Australian productions happen in Australia on a huge level. because we don't have enough Aussie stories happening, and we
Yeah.
need them. But then my other answer would be that new version of Cabaret. It's ridiculous.
Oh, yes.
I got to see that on the West End last year.
Yeah.
And it like rocked me to my core. I was like, that's what we need.
Same. Yeah,
Wow.
I was all over that. It's incredible.
I've never been to the UK, and I've never been to New York. So everything that I consume, I'm really grateful I'm from the generation that has TikTok and bootlegs, because that's how I get to, be like, oh, I love that musical, even though I only know the Cast album recording. So yeah, I feel like I agree with Noah. It would be nice to have a huge commercial production that's like pure Australian. I feel like that's what we need.
Yeah, 100%. I saw, what did I see recently? My Brilliant Career down in Melbourne. It's got Carla Gare in the lead.
Oh, I want to see that so bad.
Oh,
It is so
Me
good.
too.
It is
She
incredible.
is an icon.
Oh my God, the notes that she hits. She stands up on the piano at one stage, and I was like, I was pinned back in my seat, is what I was, and I was just like, that is insane what she can do. So
Yeah.
if that comes to Sydney, that would be one you definitely have to see.
Yeah, I'm dying for that to tour. I really I saw like her talking about it recently on TikTok about how she would like it to come to Sydney, and like people better interact with that post, because I swear to God, it better come here.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for answering both of, all those questions. It's lovely finding out more about your theatrical side, as well as learning more about you as artists. So what we'll do, we're going to take a quick little ad break, and then we'll talk about Hadestown.
This episode is sponsored by
Dreamland into the underworld.
Get your bikinis 50% off.
Well, let's actually go down to Hadestown in the underworld, and let's talk about this incredible production that I'm just obsessed with. I was saying to Noah before that I listened to it for the first time on my way to Greece for a trip of some sort.
Hey.
So it was very much on topic, I think, as I was landing. But for everyone who doesn't know about Hadestown, written by Naeus Mitchell, we've got the stories of Eurydice and Orpheus and Eurydice set. Well, it's not really set. There's not like a specific time period that it's set, is there? It's more a timeless sort of period.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the beauty of this show, is it doesn't really have a specific setting. It kind of has influences from a lot. It has like a gold rush, depression era, New Orleans kind of thing happening, but it's still authentically its own world. And we've been chipping away at the script with the director, and I keep learning more about what Hadestown is the further I get into the script, and it continues to evolve the deeper I dig into it.
Yeah, definitely. And it's extraordinarily layered, and I've had to listen to the Cast album multiple times to get what is the meaning in different elements, and the callbacks, and the foreshadowing, and like the use of the music is just absolutely stunning. So I'd love it if you both could talk a little bit about your characters a little bit more. I guess because obviously I didn't know about Orpheus and Eurydice. I had to go research this Greek tale. It's one that I'd not learnt. But I'd love if you both could talk about your approach to the characters so far.
Yeah. Noah.
You want me to go?
Say?
Well, I got the privilege of seeing the OG cast in 2019. I got to see Reeve and Eva do it, and they left me speechless because they're the most talented people I think I've ever seen on stage. I think what's exciting about doing the Australian production of Hadestown is it feels like a bit of a workshop show, even though it already is kind of set in stone with some of the core aspects of the show. But when it comes down to character, they're really letting us run with what we want to do with them. And kind of what I said before about Saigon, they're letting us let the characters mold to us versus us molding to the character, which I think creates a real beautiful three-dimensional space for these characters to exist in. And in the case of Orpheus, he's just this really beautiful kind of fresh. I've been referring to him as like a new soul. If everybody else is an old soul, they lived a couple of lives. This is Orpheus's first, in my opinion. And he's just kind of like taking the world as it comes, and he's very optimistic and positive, and he's filled with love, and he doesn't really know where to place all of that, but he's a big dreamer, and I think that Eurydice becomes his dream and becomes his muse. And it's really fun to play with a character who is so like lost in his love for someone. And is so pure in that way. And he's just gorgeous. I'm obsessed with him.
I think the nuances in the vocal quality of Orpheus is something that grabs me over and over again. Like just a complete range that's obviously in the soundtrack when you listen to it. And there is that soft quality and that gentleness and that purity, like you were saying about him, that really comes through in the music.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fun because I think I've been trying to come at this role with a bit of like a voice acting approach rather than just kind of going, this is what my voice would be in it, because I have a natural dark sound, especially from Rent. I think I have that kind of darkness in my voice, but I'm trying to place it a little bit brighter to lend it to the character. And then as the show progresses, we can bring that darkness in as his journey kind of goes. But it's really fun how much you're able to play with the vocal tone of the show. And it's fun to be really light and bright and then have kind of dark, big, belty moments when you feel like they're needed for the story. And it's just, the text is so rich. You can kind of go wherever you want to go with it, and it all feels correct within the boundaries of the show.
And then obviously playing opposite Orpheus is yourself, Abigail, as Eurydice. So if you could talk a little bit about where she fits into this whole story.
Yeah, definitely. I would say like it's so obvious in the text. When you just listen to the music, you absolutely go, oh yeah, this is why Eurydice falls in love with Orpheus. I've heard a little snippet of Noah singing Epic One and little story time. I was on the way to a fitting to put on some costumes from the show, and so I was already in my Hadestown, vibe. And then Noah sends me a little snippet, and I kid you not, I start sobbing on the train. I know, because his voice,
so sweet.
Noah's voice is just exactly what Orpheus is. It's pure magic. It's like, it makes sense why Orpheus, they say he was touched by the gods, because when I heard it, I just started crying, and I go, oh, this is, I think my little Yuri heart turned on, and I go, oh, this is why she falls in love, because for so long she's lost in the world. She's a runaway girl. She's had to survive on her own, and men in this world she can never trust. And I relate to her so much, because in this world, the odds are never in the favor of women. And so for the first time to see someone who makes me believe in the world again, to have a moment and go, oh, there's hope that I can be who I am because you empower me. It's beautiful, and it's one of my favorite songs. I think it's one of everyone's favorite songs, but All I've Ever Known, the lyrics just like capture it perfectly. What does she sing? You take me in your arms and suddenly there's sunlight all around me. Like, that's so beautiful.
It's so
and like
beautiful.
I've only ever known how to hold my own, but now I want to hold you too. And like it's so beautiful. And I feel like I'm so excited to be able to play a character once again who has been distrusting of a world, and then find that hope again. I think people fall in love with Hadestown because it's just got that magic.
Yeah, definitely. And do you find playing Kim has given you a bit of a step up to playing, well, like to give you insight to Eurydice's character? Do you think they kind of have some sort of parallels, just going off what you were just saying?
Oh, for sure. I would say there are some moments though that Kim is kind of like Orpheus. Kim has her own kind of she's I would say when you watch Miss Saigon, everyone around who is struggling to survive in the war is quite a realist. And Kim almost looks like the crazy person because she's just so extremely hopeful that things will work out and that she can do everything that she can to make her life better for her son. And Orpheus is a bit like that. So I think when I see Orpheus, I also see Kim, and that's why, as Eurydice, I can fall in love with Orpheus, because that unwavering hope is it's what makes audiences go, I'm rooting for you. But in terms of Kim and Eurydice, it's that fighting aspect. They both go through hell, literally. And they both come out as survivors, and that's, I feel like, something I'll bring to Yuri.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and I guess that's that's a good answer. That's real. I kind of, you know, when you're listening to something, you kind of get lost in it because you're just like, whoa, like that's what happened to just me just then.
Oh,
yeah, you got me, girl. Damn.
I'd love to talk a little bit about the cast that are in the show as well, because it's quite a stacked cast. Now, with the character Hermes has been played multiple different ways throughout the different productions so far. So for context, Hermes is the narrator of the musical itself. And we obviously have the amazing Christine Arnoux playing Hermes in Australia.
Yes.
So I'd love if you could chat about meeting the cast for the first time and seeing who you're actually working with.
I actually have a funny story. My mum and I were like hanging out one day, just kind of discussing like, who do you think could have it? Because I'd known for like 5 months at this point, and nobody told me who was in it. And my mum was like, damn, I really hope Christina New is Hermes. And I was like, oh my God, that would be iconic. And then a week later when I went and did the shoot, I was like, Mum, guess what? Like, and it had happened. Because she was destined for this role. She is an icon. She is an Australian icon. I'm so obsessed with her, and I can't wait to get into the room to work with her. But yeah, this cast is stacked. Adrian, who will be playing Hermes, like I couldn't think of a more perfect person to step into that role with his operatic background, and he really understands the nuance of how to step into a role with such darkness. And the conversations that I've had with him about it so far, he gets it. He knows what he's doing with the role, and he is going to be exceptional.
Yeah. I thought for Hades is like, it had to be like, just listening to the soundtrack, I was like, that bass and that depth. I was like, it has to be, if it's an opera show, it has to be someone who is trained in opera in some aspect to really get that bass. So I'm really excited to see his take on the character.
His voice like shook the room when I first met him. Like it just is, it's just already there. Like he just, without him singing, you're like, oh whoa. Like he takes up a lot of space with that gorgeous voice of his. He's gonna really kill it.
But he's also like the sweetest person in the room, which is like what I'm trying to understand as little Yuri, being like, oh, this is gonna be the guy that scares me every night, you know, because he's just such a beautiful human.
Yeah, but I feel that way about a lot of our cast. Like I couldn't think of a better Persephone. Like Eleanor is already Mother Earth when you just talk to her. She is. That's just who she is. And she is the kindest, most beautiful soul ever, just like riddled with talent, like as we all know. And our fates are next to none. Like they are like Sarah, Jen, Imani, like incredible talents and really know what they're doing. And we have this fun little group chat that we all kind of message in. And we add like ideas of the show and like little pieces of research that we found and share everything with each other. And this cast is nerdy. We are so in it nerdy already. And the rehearsals haven't even started yet. And everybody is just so hungry and so excited to put this show on. And I don't mean to toot our own horn or anything, but I do think that this show has, in terms of casting, has done similarly to what Saigon did, and I think people are gonna really eat up this cast.
Yes,
I'd love to know your opinions on the hunger for Hadestown, because like I was saying, like I've done, this is episode 70 odd something, and every single episode that I've asked which production would you want? It's been Hadestown. So I'd love to know your opinions on why are people so hungry for this show to come here?
It's such a great question. I think I fell in love with Hadestown because of the social commentary aspect of it. I think I've never felt moved by a musical by just simply listening to the soundtrack and going, oh, this is talking about our world so obviously, and there's just so much to do. And for me personally, I would say I'm a bit of a nerd as well, and I love that Anais Mitchell's writing. It's like a feast for us nerds to just like dig in and eat up all of the little things, little nuggets and treasures that she's put into the music, into the lyrics. So for me, that's what I feel like makes me really hungry. It's the musical that starts conversations. And so when people come to watch it, you probably don't know what your answer is, but you go out feeling so nourished and asking more questions and asking more about the world and why we love, or why we turn around, or just those basic human questions like that we will never know, but somehow it fills us with an answer that we can't quite describe, but we can only describe through music.
I think too, Greek mythology is the origin of theater.
Period.
Like, this is where theater has come from, and so Hadestown naturally was always going to stand the test of time because it has. And I think that Anais Mitchell is such a genius in her writing that every sentence, every word in this script has like 4 or 5 different meanings to it.
Yeah.
Whether that be tying it back to Greek myth, or tying it back to certain parts of this story, or all whatever that might be. But it just means that it doesn't matter who you are. When you come to the show, you will get a rich, nuanced storyline. Even if you don't know certain parts of Greek mythology, it's
Exactly.
very specifically written in a way that everybody will get something.
Yes.
I might interpret a line very differently to how Abby interprets a line, but both of them are
true.
equally as correct
Yes.
interpretations. And I think that's like the magic of this show too. Like, everybody will get something out of this show.
Yes.
And I think it's quite profound in its writing.
You're absolutely right. I think the depth and quality of that writing that Anais Mitchell does just kind of brings. I remember when I first listened to it, it was in 2019, and it was more the context of what was happening in America at the time, with the elections and everything. And then when it came to the Build the Wall song, and I was like, no way. I was like, no way that that's coming out right now. And I'm listening to that with everything that's going around politically. And I was like, there's so much that you can tie back to, like you were saying, Abby, everything that we do as human beings and what we talk about and what we do. And it is a very rich story in that, in terms of the conversations it makes.
Yeah. And it doesn't necessarily put the blame on anyone. It's just, even with like Hades' character, we don't necessarily blame him as the villain. We empathize with him, and there's lots of empathy for all the characters and what they go through.
Well, one final question I'd love to ask you both before we wrap up is, I'd love to know what is the one thing you're most looking forward to with this production.
Noah?
Everybody already knows this, but I am so excited to work with Abby. Another little fun story time. I went and saw the first show that Saigon did, and I went up to Abby afterwards, and I just like gushed to her about how much I was obsessed with her.
Yeah.
And I don't know, something about that day, I was like, God, I need to work with this person. And when I found out that she was going to be my Yuri, I just couldn't think of another person to have taken this role. Like Abby's work speaks for itself. We've all seen how amazing she was in Kim, but I am excited for people to witness what she's going to bring to Eurydice, because it's going to be new and it's going to rock people. And I can't wait to just witness that magic.
Great. That's a great answer.
Oh my God, that was so Orpheus coded. You've already found a way to make me your muse. Stop.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh my God. This is honestly, yeah. Justin, if you want to know, like, Noah and I have been texting, and like, both of us have just been like, we're so ready to get into the rehearsal room and just like sing beside each other and just like actually get to
Yeah.
work. That's what I'm most looking forward to, because I think at the heart of Hadestown is also the relationships we build on the stage with people. It's not just like, we're gonna go and sing a big number. It's definitely there's a trust that we build with each other. There's a real human relationship behind the characters we have. And I can already feel that brewing within the group chats we have, or even a little photo shoot that we did recently together. Everyone just, you can tell there's a lot of love in the room. So for audiences to witness like real love that we have for each other on stage, it's going to be probably what people leave the room feeling.
I think people are going to have to really prepare themselves for this one.
I'm trying
bring
to
a box
I'm
of tissues,
trying
I'd
to
say.
bring myself a box of tissues as well. Gosh, I'm going to be crying every
No, let it happen, girl. Get snotty. That's the vibe.
Are you sure you want a snotty little Eurydice?
I'll take anything. I'll take it all.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Abby and Noah, for joining me for this great chat. It's been a real full circle moment to finally get to chat everything about Hadestown. I'm very, very excited to see you both up on the Theatre Royal stage come February. And good luck in the rehearsal rooms. I'm so excited for you guys to get started.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
Thanks for having
Please
us today.
come,
That was
y'all.
really fun.
Please come. It opens on the 14th of February. Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day. How apt.
How perfect. Perfect.
Thank you so
timing.
much for having us, Justin.
A massive thank you to Abigail Adriano and Noah Mullins for joining us on this very special Hadestown episode of the Theatre Thoughts podcast. Tickets to Hadestown are now on sale for the Theatre Royal in Sydney from February and Melbourne's Her Majesty's Theatre from May. Visit hadestown.com.au or follow the link in this episode's description. This episode was produced by Echidna Audio. Follow them on Instagram at Echidna Audio for all their audio services. Once again, if you enjoyed our podcast, leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts and head to the link in this episode's description for our Instagram account, TikTok, YouTube, and Patreon. My name's Justin Clark, and I'll see you next time here on the Theatre Thoughts podcast.